West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't understand what
agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, October 29th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Headline coming from Channel 7. Colorado challenges snap cutoff in federal court. Colorado has joined 22 other states in filing a lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Secretary Brooke Rollins for suspending SNAP during the government shutdown. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser made the announcement on Tuesday. The lawsuit argues that the USDA has acted illegally by halting food assistance despite having access to contingency funds. On Friday, the Trump administration announced it will not use the more than $5 billion in emergency funding the USDA maintains to cover the program, arguing the funds are not available to support fiscal year 2026 regular benefits because the appropriation for regular benefits no longer exists. In an interview with Scripps News, USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins reiterated that her department does not have enough to cover the more than $9 billion needed to cover the cost of SNAP benefits funds once it runs out. Here's the bottom line. We've been saying now for almost a month that as of November 1st, we will not have the $9.2 billion available that will be required for the entire month of November. And the way that the formulas and the math works, that is an unequivocal, sort of uncontested number. We don't have the funding that is needed to keep SNAP programs going through November. So how many people in Colorado are on SNAP benefits? Well, it's roughly 584,500 Coloradans that receive SNAP benefits. That's gone up. It's roughly about 9.81% of the population of the state of Colorado. So this gets complicated, Bill, because some people don't ever get off SNAP benefits. This has become a kind of ongoing welfare program, roughly to the tune of about 30% of those on SNAP benefits stay on SNAP benefits for the rest of their lives. Others come and go. But what was originally intended to be kind of a temporary supplemental nutrition assistance program, that's the name of it, SNAP, has gone from 2% of the nation's population to 12%, and in some cases, 15%. And a lot of those leaps happen under Democrat administrations. Is this an important program that needs to continue to be funded, or has it become part of the permanent welfare class in America and contributing to the now $38 trillion debt in this country? Billy and I will discuss coming up. Would love to hear from you. Give us a call, especially if you rely on SNAP benefits. We'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, 26 and clear, expecting a high of 59 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, the Fed expected to cut interest rates today, with news that inflation has slowed. We'll hear about that in a few hours.
My kids have not eaten in 5 days. It is the taxpayer's responsibility to take care of my kids.
Get ready for that this weekend, as Jeff was just talking about. Colorado has joined a coalition of states that is suing the federal government over the pending suspension of SNAP benefit payments. The coalition of about 24 states sued the U.S. Department of Agriculture on Tuesday. The group wants the agency to use emergency funds to pay SNAP benefits in November. DJT's Asian tour continues in South Korea this morning.
I just wanted to thank you. You rolled out a red carpet that was a very good red carpet, a beautiful red carpet, and giving me the honor of that magnificent piece of art, because it really was a piece of art that you presented to me today. And to be the first president of the United States that got that was really something very special. So I appreciate it very much, and I won't forget the trip. And we'll be working together, and you have a little bit of a cloud over your country, and we're going to get that cloud solved. You have a neighbor that hasn't been as nice as they could be, and I think they will be. I know Kim Jong-un very well, and I think things will work out very well. Tomorrow I meet with President Xi of China, and I look forward to that.
And the South Koreans presented the president. The artwork that he was talking about was a gold crown. They presented that to him this morning. Here's what the scoreboard in Asia looks like right now.
And Toyota to invest $10 billion in U.S. auto plants, a $30 billion partnership with Mitsubishi, the U.S., Japan, South Korea planning to sign a tech deal and a framework agreement with Japan on critical minerals. We also saw similar deals on those rare earths in Malaysia and Cambodia when Trump was in Kuala Lumpur over the weekend.
All right, so tomorrow, once again, he will meet with Chinese leader Xi in Busan, South Korea. The Schumer shutdown inching closer to 30 days. It's day 29 today.
Where the American people are is real simple. We're on day 29 of the stupidest shutdown. This is the Schumer shutdown.
And the Democrats know what they're doing, but it's not working. So you have to laugh at them. And you know what? I need a little Senator John Kennedy, Louisiana, this morning.
I thought to myself, even duct tape can't fix stupid. I don't know Miss Wallace. I've watched her a little bit. I remember when she worked for President Bush. I suppose she's not as bad as some members of the liberal media, but that's faint praise. That's like it's like being the smartest person on The View. I'm going to give Miss Wallace the benefit of the doubt and assume that she said what she said right after her morning beer.
He was talking about Nicole Wallace, man. That dude, if he stood up on stage, man, I think he could go about 10 minutes and have the crowd just falling over. Hurricane Melissa has made landfall in eastern Cuba overnight as a dangerous Category 3 storm, packing winds up to 120 miles an hour. Over 700,000 people have been evacuated. The hurricane expected to move offshore toward the Bahamas after battering southeastern Cuba. Top of the third last night, Shohei Ohtani on the mound. That's Babe Ruth, by the way. Our Babe Ruth, the new version of Babe Ruth. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the plate, 1-on. Jays down 1-0.
Hit well to deep left center. And this one will go. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. lines one into the seats in left center, and the Blue Jays take the lead.
And the Blue Jays beat the Dodgers 6-2 in Game 4 of the World Series. Series now even at 2 games apiece, with Game 5 tonight in L.A. at Chavez Ravine. Avalanche lose to the Devils last night in Lodo, and CU's Deion Sanders says, hey, don't make a deal out of one of his coaches, Warren Sapp, a big deal out of Coach Warren Sapp, knocking over the pylons in the end zone before games because he's on cleanup duty.
Let me start by addressing some stupidity that happened a week ago, that someone tried to make a big deal out of Coach Sapp knocking over the darn pylons. That's our little thing. He knocks them down, I pick them up. That's what defensive linemen do, right? They knock them down, the defensive backs pick them off. So that's our little thing. So that's what we do. Stop trying to make something out of nothing. And the little situation that you caught me yelling on the sideline, I wasn't yelling at coach about a call. I was yelling about personnel. Okay, I just want to make it clear. So I was talking about personnel, not the coach.
Not the coach. That was the defensive coordinator, Rob Livingston. So he was yelling at him to pull number 33 out. Get 51 out. Get 41 out of there. What are you doing playing him? 25 in Aurora, 24 in Arvada, 26 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Cool but sunny weather on tap for this Wednesday for Denver in the Front Range. Going to be a nice stretch of autumn weather to take us through the rest of the week, through Halloween and into the weekend. Temperatures will be 50s to near 60 degrees. Clear tonight, low to mid-30s. Mostly sunny and 50s Thursday, near 30 Thursday night. We will have a few more clouds on Halloween. Halloween, we're sideswiped by a front, but it will just produce clouds, keep us cool in the low 50s. But we're going to warm to the 60s, even some 70-degree temperatures possible this weekend. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. SNAP benefits running out November 1st. I'm excited for this conversation because I think this is a conversation you're not going to have anywhere else on any other show. But the role of SNAP benefits, is it important? Does it need to be continue to be funded at the level it is? Is it part of the growing welfare state that happens in America? So let's lay out some boundaries here and get clear on some terms. Bill, would you generally believe that we shouldn't create dependence on government programs for able-bodied adults?
Tell me what do you mean by dependence, and what do you mean by able-bodied?
So able-bodied is the ability to go to work, right? Like you can go to work.
How many hours a week?
40.
Does it have to be 40?
Sure, why not? That's what the standard job is, right?
Well, but standard for SNAP right now is 30. And the standard job, I'm not certain, there are a lot of people listening in our audience that have a job that keeps them at 32 to 36 hours a week. You wouldn't say, even though they're able-bodied, they're not working. So I disagree with your level of 40.
All right.
Yeah, so let's go 30.
Okay, so 30 hours.
Okay, 30.
Okay. Do you, and then able-bodied is the ability to work, right? So yeah, you're not permanently disabled.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's we don't want a nation where we have to tax workers and take their money in order to provide money for food, which is the SNAP benefits, for people that could work at least 30 hours a week and are not permanently disabled. It's not fair to take money from other people and pass it off to them.
In a short-term transitionary portion, I'm not against it. In something that is a short term,
right? So
I got no problem with that.
If it's short term,
yeah, permanent, no.
Right, permanent being that we don't want.
Yeah,
okay,
I can agree
so
with
that. I'm looking at the percentage of the American population that requires SNAP benefits, and when this was first created back in the mid-'60s, early '70s, you're looking at roughly 2% of the nation's population. Under Democrat administrations, like the Clinton administration, it jumped up to 10%. It then dropped back down to about 6% under the Bush administration. Then in the Obama administration, jumps back up to 10, then goes to 13, then 15% in 2013. 2020 kind of jumps back up to 12% and hovers right now around 12%. Do you think that the current iteration of SNAP benefits providing money for people to buy food at 12% of the nation's population is too high?
I would say that yes, it's too high, but we probably will disagree on the causal reasons for that. And I'm not certain that by massively restricting the benefits, you're going to solve the problem.
Yeah, so what would you do with SNAP? It requires about $93.7 billion of the federal government going to 12% of the population. That's a lot of money. And they're not going to get it November 1st. So I guess what do you expect to happen starting November 1st? Do you have any belief in reforming SNAP? The average person stays on it for about 10 months right now, but you have 30% of the population that's on it indefinitely. So,
Wait,
30% of the
population?
SNAP recipients have been on it at least 5 years. So it's now at that point, in my mind, become almost a permanent entitlement. So would you do anything to reform it? And do you see major problems coming November 1st?
I do see major problems coming November 1st, and those are problems that could be solved. Because, again, we've heard the excuse that this contingency fund, because appropriations run out, we can't do anything with it. Sorry. I have seen the current administration look at money that hasn't been appropriated and has not been appropriated by Congress and said, we don't care, and changed it all the time. Cutting off funding, changing funding, moving things. So the idea that, oopsies, now we're going to follow the rule. Okay, tell me that about funding for the Department of Education. Yeah, explain that one to me. So that's why I disagree with their pretend handcuffs, that there's nothing you can do. So this, I think, can be very, very consequential, but I think there are layers of things inside. One, yeah, it is a problem for 30% of those that are on SNAP benefits to be on it for more than 5 years, but I want to know what segment of the SNAP benefit population that is, because they are not all between the ages of 49 and 18 and have the ability to work. There are, in fact, that is a small portion. In fact, the numbers that I was looking at, that is the smallest portion of the people that are receiving SNAP benefits are those that we would define as able-bodied and working. And then you'd have to question, what do you do with the rest of them? So I do think there should be reforms, but we do have reforms that are currently inside of the big, beautiful bill. And that would change some of the work requirements and things. And they do have to re-sign in order for the work requirements. And in order to qualify for the work requirements, you got to be working at least 30 hours a week. And you've got to be actively looking for a job. And you can't refuse a job that is given to you, nor can you voluntarily separate from a job you have. So you can't get a job, quit, get a job, quit, get a job, quit. That's not allowed. And you can't also turn down job offers and still stay on SNAP benefits. So the requirement for work is there. It's what do we do with the other larger portion of the pie, which is children, elderly, and disabled. Those that would not fall under the idea of work requirements. And so these type of reforms, I don't think changes that in any way, shape, or form. And what I'd want to know is, of those people, the 30% that are on for 5 years, do they qualify as the children, elderly, or disabled? That would change my interpretation of it versus this is 30% of the SNAP beneficiaries who could actively work and are not. Yeah.
And I'm intrigued as to what you think we as a nation did prior to SNAP benefits with children, elderly, and disabled.
Starved.
Really?
Dead. Things like
really?
that. Other stuff.
In the mid-'70s, you just had starving disabled people?
Well, there were some other things that happened, but yeah, there were some. I know we didn't care for them. Sometimes institutionalized them. Yeah, there were other things. Sure. But the thing
what
for me,
evidence
the core,
do you have of that?
Right, I'll go back and look. But here's the thing: is the core of this though is that if we're saying that SNAP benefits are bad, does it mean that approximately that 12% of people that are receiving government assistance don't deserve to have food? Is that really what we're functioning over as far as a society here in America? That we are going to decide that the people on the lowest end of the economic spectrum can't have food?
You think that if the government doesn't provide it, they don't get it?
In many ways, yeah. And again, understand what the government benefits are. The government's not showering them with thousands of dollars. The average SNAP benefit is $332 a month. That's
Correct.
$83 a week. Again, everybody listening to the Jeff and Bill show, understand the average SNAP beneficiary is receiving $83. They're not going out and buying lobster tails and filet mignon. They're not out there using this to buy champagne and caviar.
That seems like a little bit of a straw man, though.
No, but hang on a sec. That's the reason I'm bringing it up is because that's the implication is that we hear all the time, and we've heard it. Hang on. We've heard on this show from both texters and callers, how come these people with their food stamps and their benefits are buying food that's better than me? They shouldn't be able to afford that. How come they're doing that? We've heard that anecdotally, and you've heard it here, and you've heard it on the air, and you've heard it through texts. That's why I'm offering that up right now, that we have to have a genuine conversation about the idea that they're getting $332 a month on average, and that's $83 a week. That's it.
I find that number is important, but I'm not sure that it changes the conversation. So you have 12% of the population that's on SNAP benefits. That's a lot more than there was in 1971, for instance. There's 4%. But I fundamentally disagree that if the government doesn't provide it, people starve and die in the streets. You have food banks. Just about most churches that I know provide food banks for people where things are discounted, if not free in itself. And I wonder if we have created a program where we continue to fund it. We spend billions of dollars on it. People have become dependent on it. And I'm not sure it's healthy for a nation to become dependent upon the federal government. And this is going to get into healthcare as well. That we create these programs that we hand to the people in Washington, D.C., who we criticize all the time on this program, to run and manage, and then we get concerned that it's not going to be either run well, or it's going to be fraudulent, or we're spending more and more money on it, and we're not getting the outcomes. I mean, Bill, I think you're an old school American in the sense that you believe that people should not be fully dependent on SNAP their entire lives, especially if they're able-bodied and willing to work. I'm not so sure about this next generation. I think there's progressives out there who don't see any problem with a government check continuing to show up and not necessarily putting in work requirements, for instance.
Yeah, and I can see that, and I do think there probably are portions on both sides that think that would be okay for a variety of reasons. But remember that this largesse, that these possible parasites are sucking off of the government teat, comes down to an average of $83 a week. $83.
Yeah, but it's 12% of the population.
I know.
That's a lot.
But the reason I keep coming back to that number, the idea it's a lot, and again, we could get back into economic systems and taxation, some other stuff in far the 70s, because things have changed since then, wages and job growth and other stuff, and pensions and work requirements and unions, and there's a whole layer of how the economy was set up inside of the 60s and 70s that doesn't exist right now, that can change the availability for people to be able to feed themselves on a regular basis. But the idea is, and we hear it all the time, that these people are doing nothing and they're going to be great because they're getting this fat government check. I'm coming back to that number because this fat government check that we're mad about is an average of $83 a week. $83. less than $100 a week. I understand the idea of the numbers based on percentages.
Do you give $83 a week away to people?
I have kids. I give more than
right,
that. Seriously.
I know, right? Text messages coming in 3674. My first job was as a Kroger bagger. I watched people pay with food stamps and get crab and lobster and steak. And I would walk the groceries to the Cadillac outside. 3674. Gabe texting in, food banks are running low. My sister gets her food from food banks. Same with a few of my friends. Does agree with work requirements. One option out of this problem that we're going to hit November 1st with no money for SNAP benefits, Josh Hawley saying, let's do an independent vote. If we're going to disagree about all these other aspects of the government, okay, can we at least get Republicans and Democrats together? So this is a Republican, the U.S. Senator from Missouri, saying, let's do just a single vote on SNAP benefits and making sure that we at least provide that. You think Democrats will go for it? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115. We'll continue. Let's first talk advanced hair restoration. Gentlemen, if you're losing your hair, you need a simple solution that works. You want the best modern technology, top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Got a receding hairline or bald spot? How about thinning hair? Address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm and relaxed environment. With the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the Advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Call 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR, advancedhair.com. 720-459-HAIR, advancedhair.com. Are you okay with your hard-earned money going to provide food stamps to other people? Is that part of, Bill, you talk about the payment of being an American, the cost of being an American with regards to the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Is that an okay cost to being an American that 12% of the population receives billions of dollars in food stamps that comes from your pocket?
My answer is yes, especially because of who is receiving it. Absolutely. And I would hesitate to live in a society that would say no.
Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. SNAP benefits are about to be cut for millions of Americans. 12% of the country relies upon Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is food stamps, basically. And total population, monthly participants, 41.7 million. Average monthly benefits per person is about $187, but it takes up $93.7 billion of benefits from this nation. So the average duration of a person on a SNAP benefit is about 10 months, but 30% or so are on for 5+ years. And the percentage of our population requiring SNAP benefits has gone up. Now, it's not as high as it was in some cases, but when this started, about 4 to 5% of the population was on SNAP benefits. We're now north of 12%. Is our society becoming more dependent on these welfare programs? And what happens if we stopped? I mean, this thing was created in the late 60s, early 70s. Prior to that, you know, mass starvations of disabled people in the streets. So do we have to have the government provide this benefit, or does society rally and provide those types of charities?
The other question I would have is, in that percentage of difference between the 70s and now, is that a difference of what we did, or is that a difference of need? That was the need that much smaller based on a percentage of the population at the time. And the reason it's larger now is because the need has grown, that more people would qualify. Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I would say even during part of the Carter administration, it never really got above 8%. So, and those weren't the best economic times either. So, yeah, good question. Join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. And are you okay with a portion of your tax dollars of what you work hard to provide for your money going to other people that in some cases spend 5+ years receiving SNAP benefits? Do you think there's fraud there? Do you think that there's a dependency class that's been developed? Would love to hear from you. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's go to the phone lines. Mary in Wyoming. Good morning, Mary. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, I am so upset about this that was not being figured in. You talk about just that amount. If you become a mother and you go on welfare, not only do you get a stipend for having that child to live, you qualify for Section 8 housing, you get SNAP, you get WIC, you get LEAP to pay your utilities, you get transportation grants, you have the tax credit, you get your Medicaid, which also includes with the clinics the government pays for. They even have dental. And this is all provided by the government. You can make more being on welfare than you can going and working on a job.
And your source for that is what? No, Mary, your source for that is what? Because I want to see the numbers. You can point to this study, this table, this what, that shows that you make more money on benefits than you can working. Because the last one that I sort of ran across doing armchair type of math, and I'm not very good at math, shows that as you start to work between 20 to 25 hours a week, you actually start outpacing what you can make through just the benefits. And remember, some of those things do have work requirements. So I'm just curious. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying, wait, Mary, I'm not saying you're wrong. Mary, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm asking for your source. You're coming here saying this exists and this is true. I'm just wanting to go look at the numbers. That seems fair. Your source for this is
then
what?
You can look. Then, Bill, you can look at the numbers. And every one of those people that are, like I said, are on Section 8 housing, how much is the rent the government is paying?
I did, and I don't. And then what I'm telling you is my armchair back of the napkin math doesn't hold up to that statement. And again, I'm bad at math, and I could be wrong, but just the basic math that I've done. So what I'm saying is, I can be wrong. I'm looking for your source to drive me in the direct place where I can see this.
You have to go to the different programs, and you can see it. LEAP. Okay, LEAP. How much money? You can include that. In other words, LEAP, and right now that LEAP is, they have what they can't pay out any of the electrical, et cetera, and these people are depending upon that money for their heat source. And so that because of the closure, those checks are not going out. I qualify as a low-income senior. And so I got my letter that said they're not going to help until you go back. So in other words, and how much do they get on LEAP? They get up to $900 on their electrical bills to be paid. If you look at the WIC program,
but
they're not
making, Mary, they're not making a profit though off of that bill, correct?
When you say it's not making a profit, I'm saying that is all going out of taxpayers' dollars.
No, yeah, I know, Mary, but we're talking about being able to earn more. So in order to show that you can earn more, you need to show me they're making a profit. That's part of this equation that you're talking about. So I just don't see where being on the benefits creates a profitability versus the numbers that you have once you start working between 20 and 25 hours a week. But let's put that aside. You don't have a table or anything I can point to. That's fair. That's fine. Keep going.
I can tell you about the programs where you can get that information. So you could go and look at how much is spent on Section 8 housing. That's covering their housing needs. Cover your utilities. They have, like I said, you talk about the SNAP. You start adding that. I'm saying you add all those benefit amounts for just for there to be able to live a month. And one of the things that I criticize about the programs, and it's generational. You have one, and when I started out in life and working, I started out as a social worker because I wanted to make a difference. And what I found out when I quit and got out of that, when I started seeing the children of my original customers were doing the same damn thing.
Well, Mary, how does that explain that the average person receiving SNAPs is only on there for 10 months? And they transition out, and only 30% exist on there. Mary, okay, hang on a sec, Mary.
Yes,
hey,
okay,
wait,
but
Mary,
let me say something.
No, Mary, let me finish the statement. Mary, please let me finish the statement, because 30%, the Jeff cited 30% of people on SNAP benefits are on there for longer than 5 years. That is not perpetual. That doesn't mean that these people that sign up are perpetual, especially when the average term of SNAP benefits is 10 months. That is not a lifetime of government benefits.
That is so wrong, and I have the stats on this. Our state, Washington State, I work for the governor of Washington State. And one of the things he wanted to do was the work fair. We were the second state in the country to go to do work fair. That after, they had their youngest children started school, you had to go, you went in deployment training and you would get a job. They would pay for the babysitter and other services to help you transition into the workforce. Guess what? It didn't work. You know why? Because when that youngest child went in to daycare, they had another baby. And that gave them another 6 years of services. And that is a truth. My thing, and the governor would not support, was, to me, this would all stop if after you had your last baby, you go into there, you have another baby, your benefits did not increase. You had to live on what you already had. You stopped that at that point. I get so frustrated because it is generational. Not only do that, and you're saying, oh no, my statistics say, well, real life is they have another baby, they stay on welfare, and then even when they become grandmothers,
Mary, I understand that, but there isn't a single long-term reputable study that shows that to be true for the vast majority of recipients. Not a single
Nobody
one.
wants to know it.
No. Oh, come
That's
on.
Real.
You're telling me the Heritage Foundation doesn't want to know that? Please, the Cato Institute wouldn't want to know that. Mary, come on.
Experienced it.
I understand that you experienced it, but what I'm saying is, if it was happening regularly across America, the numbers would be there. And the flat truth is that the statistics don't show that. Over and over and over again. There are pockets and there are individual cases.
That was the problem with workfare, because they never did go to the next stage of employment and training and getting a job. They had another baby. and they did it over and over. You'd see, I mean, look at the numbers of the children, and that was a job for
Mary,
them.
here's the problem. We have lower and lower fertility rates in America. The idea that there are these poor people popping out the babies like they did decades ago doesn't hold true just based on population growth. The numbers aren't there based on the idea that all these poor people are having millions of free babies to get welfare. The numbers aren't there. It doesn't back it up just based on population. If you just look at the birth rate, it doesn't hold true. I'm sorry.
Look at how much earned income tax credits are paying out for that. I mean, you don't look. You talk about
you don't have to. But you don't have to be on welfare to get the EIC.
Mary,
you don't have to.
I appreciate the call. Mary from
Thanks, Mary.
Wyoming.
Appreciate
Her
it.
line will be open 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Lots of text messages coming in. 6135. Mary's right. My sister worked for Social Security for 20 years. Listen to Mary, please. I believe Mary, 7165 says.
Anyone in the text messages, please point me to the study, the table, the information. Please. That's all I'm asking. All of you are saying this is true. I'm not standing here on my soapbox saying y'all are wrong. I'm saying this is what I have found. These are the studies that I see. I'm looking for the alternative information that has convinced you all of X. Please. All you got to do, text it, call in, please show me the table, show me the study, show me the numbers that proves what you're saying. I just want to see it.
Jacqueline, Nebraska. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Oh, gosh. Good morning, guys. Listen, I'm going to tell you, when I first got out of college, I went to work for the county, Montrose County in Montrose County. And I was young then. When they started the WIC and they started helping with different kinds of benefits, it was for the women whose husbands went to Vietnam. It goes back into the 60s. That's what it was for. The food stamp, it was to help those women feed their children. It was to help out with men that lost their man or lost their husbands in Vietnam. Well, one little welfare office became the whole bottom of the courthouse within a year or two. After that, 2 or 3 years later, it became a whole section of the old nursing home there. And I worked for the county, and I will tell you now, it's job security to keep them in the system. It is. It doesn't matter if it's Colorado or if it's New York is one of the worst, and now it's California is. But they get in and they stay in, and they provide that over and over for years and years, because as long as they have clients, they, as state employees and federal,
Jacqueline, I understand. Jacqueline, hang on a sec, Jacqueline. Then can you explain to me why, as Jeff outlined, the average person receiving SNAP benefits is on the program for 10 months, and only 30% of those on the program are on there for 5 years? The overwhelming majority are out of the program inside of 3. If what you're saying is true, how do we come up with those statistics? And SNAP, we have to remember, was started to feed low-income people that didn't have food. And the other thing we also have to roll into that is that the SNAP program buys surplus crops from American farmers. So it is taxpayers paying American farmers for their excess crops and turning around and feeding the poor. So understand that's the loop we're talking about here.
Well,
so,
I'll tell you something here. Now, if you ever read any of the reports that Doge did, they were right on. And they were
No, they weren't.
Jacqueline,
I like you a lot. They were so wrong.
Let's let her finish.
Okay, but they were wrong.
Now, listen, I'm going to tell you something about the farmers, buying farmers' produce. I hand out food that is provided by the farmers in Colorado and Nebraska, and I'm going to tell you something. The food on the bottom label of the box will say, product of Old Mexico. Now, don't tell me that you know exactly where that food's coming from, because I know I've seen it myself. I hand it out once a month when it's there. We've stopped buying from Old Mexico. We're not doing that anymore, and we are not giving out a lot of produce because stuff is not being grown in Nebraska like it is in Colorado. But what I'm telling you is this. I've known women, Billy, that have been on welfare and gotten full benefits, like Mary was saying. I mean, everything paid, and they've been on it for 56, what is this? This is 57 years. and their children and their grandchildren were born into that. These are statistics that people do not want out there. They don't want you to know that.
Jacqueline?
But
what
Bill,
percentage
look,
of those
I mean,
welfare recipients are on their lifetime?
Almost all these text messages are, I agree with Mary. I had a cousin who did exactly what Mary said. Gabe, I've seen what Mary's talking about. So you keep jumping to statistics, but I've never seen so many text messages of people going,
That's okay.
I have seen this with my own eyes.
Yeah, but let me quote this. Just because I know, but hang on, Jacqueline, hang on a sec. Jacqueline, I'm looking at where are the numbers showing that. None of the numbers show this. I understand the individual observations and anecdotal information. That's why I'm asking for larger studies. And this comes back to the truism of all Indians must walk in a straight line because the ones that I saw did. That's the logical fallacy that we're having right here. And so I'm looking for the larger numbers. If all these women are on welfare perpetually, please show me where you find that.
It's all these women, but I think from these text messages, you're getting quite a bit that are. Go ahead.
What percentage? Show me.
I've helped deliver babies to grandchildren of the women that I helped deliver their first baby. I'm telling you, and I know where it was paid for. I know what they were on. I worked as a county health nurse, Billy, and I helped get these people their benefits, and I helped them keep them by minding my own business. Now, if you get too nosy and you go in there, you're out of there, because this is job security for state and some federal employees. Now, I'm telling you now, people are calling in, they're telling you this. I've seen it with my own eyes. I participated in it. And if you go down, let's just say you go out to Brighton and you go down to the welfare office and you ask them to see their books, ask them to see a percentage that they have. They're not going to give it to you, Billy. They're not going to. They're not going to show you. They don't have to, right? No. And they wouldn't unless they were forced to do it. And when DOJ went in to all these different agencies, they went in with the authority of the President of the United States. So they wouldn't have been in there to look at anything. I can tell you that now. But it was part of my job to look the other way and keep my mouth shut, because that's how I kept my job. And it's job security.
Jacqueline,
and I know people.
We appreciate the call.
Thanks
so much. We just got to get to a break. Jacqueline from Nebraska. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Woo boy, phone lines are hot, text messages are hot,
y'all are great.
SNAP benefits about to be cut November 1st. What do you think about the welfare state that's been built in America? Originally about 2 to 4% of the American population was on SNAP. We're now well over 12%. We're getting too many people dependent on these government programs. And is it just SNAP? What about Section 8 housing? All that stuff. Lots of phone calls. Let's go to Karen in Denver. Good morning, Karen. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hello. Thank you. I just wanted to call and make a comment about the lady that called that had used to be a social worker and witnessed this. I also have witnessed this. I've been a nurse. I'm 65. I've watched family members, even my granddaughter, one of them, milk the system. They get free housing. They get food stamps, and she dumps her child on my daughter to raise, who has lupus, who can't even get on disability. She gets food stamps. She gets child care. She gets housing, and she's working a job underneath the table like most of them do, and all her friends and a whole apartment full. That's all they do is milk the system and get all the free money, and they're the ones causing this shutdown because of the people
Karen,
that do this.
Karen,
and they just
on those
they
programs,
just go have another baby.
What
they
percentage?
Just have another baby.
I know that's the myth out there, but what percentage of the people
It's
doing
not a
that?
myth.
Karen, what percentage of the people on those programs are doing what you're outlining? What percentage?
I would say 50% of it is illegal.
Now, how are you deriving that information? Based on what? Only personal observation, because that doesn't cut it, because you don't see everything that's going on in America. So based on what?
But you don't see it at all because you're where you are.
No, I didn't say I didn't see it. I'm looking at the numbers overarching, Karen,
Well,
and that's
you
the
said
problem.
the numbers, they're not looking in the right place. They need to, like that lady said, you're not looking at the housing records. You're not looking at how much money, and they get like my granddaughter
Karen,
gets
we're
over
up against a
$1,000
hard
a
break.
month.
Appreciate the call. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.